Hello, good morning if you're joining live, and just hello. And I hope you're well if you are joining at a different time watching back. So, my name is Stella, and you might have done sessions with me before on the virtual village hall, but I will share a little bit of an introduction for those that are new. So, I am a holistic practitioner. I'm an emotional freedom technique advanced practitioner and also a trainer. So, I train other people in using emotional freedom technique, and I'm a Qigong instructor. So they're the two main things that I do with the virtual village hall. I love doing these sessions, and it's a great way to share these tools with more people, as many people as possible, because both emotional freedom technique tapping, and if you're wondering what is that, don't worry, we'll go through that. And the Qigong Tai Chi for Health I do are tools that have made a huge difference to my life. They continue to really help me manage my sort of life challenges, my day-to-day life, good self-care practice, and also help other people, my clients and my students. Okay. So I am from Soul Space Unlimited. That's the name of my business that has been inspired by my own health journey and healing journey. And with emotional freedom technique, what we're doing is we're bringing the mind and the body together, because actually, in fact, there is no separation between the mind and the body. In the past, and in some areas, of thinking, we still consider them separate, but they're not. They're really, we're one. We're one system, mind, body, and spirit. So, with this process of tapping, EFT tapping, we bring that together in the way that we tap on meridian points around the body. So, if you've had acupuncture or acupressure, you're familiar with those, you've probably heard of them if you haven't had them yourself. They are tapping on points. They are inserting needles or putting pressure on points around the meridian system, and it helps energy to move and flow. So we're really working with energy, and emotions are just energy in motion. They're meant to move and to flow. And through this process, we're going to help that flow. We're going to help clear some blocks. And blocks can manifest in different ways. It might be physical, sensations of pain, discomfort, or it might be, things that we feel mentally. We might feel really stuck in our head. We might be having sort of mood disorders. It could be anything. But what we're doing is we're helping to move things along the way they're meant to. We're meant to flow and find balance. But life inevitably happens, and things do get a bit sticky and a bit difficult, as we know. And this is a chance to focus on the topic of social anxiety. So with social anxiety, we're looking at sort of a scale and a spectrum. So whatever you come with today, I want you to know that you can adapt this session for you, but I also want to make you aware that if you have really severe social anxiety to the point where it is like a disorder and you are having maybe panic attacks, you're really struggling, then that is obviously along that spectrum, that scale of being more severe. That I would want to make sure that you have support, that you've spoken to your GP, that you are safe, that you've got mental health support alongside doing a session like this. And if you feel that is you, and perhaps you don't feel confident and ready to share a session like this, then I would suggest making sure you've got that in place, and then come back and do this. You can watch it back on the Virtual Village Hall Facebook page. Come back when you feel more ready and supported. Okay. But for those that do feel comfortable and able to proceed, we're going to explore a bit around social anxiety. We're going to let you sort of consider how it affects you in your life, but in a really gentle way. So we're going to start with a bit of grounding, a bit of meditation to help you feel safe in this session, to enter it with that gentle intention of self-care and compassion. And then we are going to explore some tapping scripts together. So I will speak and you will mirror, say out loud ideally, what I've said. So you just follow me and you follow through the points. It can feel strange at first if you've not done it before, but don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. And as we do that, we're going to do a few different rounds. We're going to check in, see how you're feeling, and we're going to do some imagery as well. So if you're visual, great. If you're not visual, then you can still get something from this in terms of doing the tapping and focusing on what's going on for you. Okay. So what do you need? Well, some water. Please have some water, ideally, some nice filtered water if you can, something that's going to be nice and refreshing and hydrating, because as we do this work, we are moving things. It might seem like we're just doing this tapping thing, but we are actually supporting a really deep healing process as we reshift, those emotions and that energy and those thought patterns. It takes a lot of energy. So be aware of that, really nourish and nurture yourself throughout the day, and make sure you drink plenty of water. I'll just let you know that sometimes when we move energy, different things happen. So you might find whilst we're tapping, if you start yawning or burping or sneezing or laughing or crying, all of those are natural things and they're actually a sign of energy moving. So the key is not to hold it in or tense, let it come as much as you can. Okay. And as well, we might notice things move and shift. We might have a change in our thinking. We might feel energy move in the body. Again, they're all signs of things moving. And if you don't experience any of that, don't make it wrong. That's okay. Whatever you get from today, is right for you. There's no right or wrong. We're just curious, and we're just going to do really gentle tapping today. Obviously, in a one-to-one, we go deeper and more personalized. But this really is going to be me just offering the tools and guiding, and you can go as deep as you want to, because you know yourself better, than anybody else. Okay. So we know that with social anxiety, obviously it affects our lives. With maybe mild to moderate social anxiety, we might feel really nervous and worried about events, being around people, being in social settings. And it might be that we're really worried before, during, and after. We might really ruminate about it and what we said or didn't say, how we came across, what people think, maybe we got something wrong. All those kind of behaviours and thought patterns are obviously relating to anxiety, which has a physical feeling and manifestation in our body. So we're going to help you to explore that and to connect with that a bit more in a safe way today. And as I mentioned, for some people, it's more intense. And for those people, then, just make sure that you are safe and that you are supported and resourced when you do work like this on exploring your social anxiety. But we're really going to focus on self-compassion and acceptance. So we're not trying to fix or change anything today in terms of your social anxiety. I know that can be challenging. And it doesn't mean that it can't change, because I really believe that it can. And that's been my experience, both personally and with people I work with. But what we want to focus on today is not trying to fix it as if we're coming from a place of wrongness or lack. We want to bring in that self-compassion, acceptance with, for you as you are. So can we love ourselves more, even with this anxiety? That is, the focus of this session. Okay, so let's do a little bit of grounding. If you've got pen and paper, then great. You might want to note things down that come up for you in this session, but it's not necessary. You don't need it. But sometimes, we might have a thought or a feeling, and it's good that we can return to it later. Okay, you might do a bit of scales, numbers, and imagery and colours as well. All right, to begin, I'd like you, if you're comfortable to close your eyes and just make sure you are as comfortable as you can be. Now's the time to grab anything that you might need if you feel a bit cold. It's got a bit colder today where I am in Norfolk, so you might feel the same. An extra layer or something. Cushion, just make sure you are as comfortable as you can. Closing those eyes. If it's safe and comfortable for you to do so, then take some nice deep breaths. As deep as you can. Try not to overly focus on your breathing too much if that causes your anxiety, but you're just noticing the in breath and the out breath. Now, this is really important. I want you to invite yourself to soften and relax a few percent. So that might just be 1 or 2% of softness and letting go in your shoulders, your arms, your stomach, your neck. 1 or 2% of softening, relaxing is enough for change and for your system to respond as you show it that you're ready to enter a different space, a different state. We're helping you shift your state. And if your mind's wandering off, that's okay. Try not to make it wrong. You're only human and it's natural. You can just bring your focus back to the sound of my voice, that softening, that few percent as you let go and breathe out. Just become aware of the force of gravity, that sense of heaviness weighing your body down. You can allow your body to get heavier in that chair or that bed, wherever you are. Allow gravity to help you just let go. There's no need to resist or to fight it. Allow yourself to sink down a bit more into this experience, even if you're not sure what it's going to be like. You might focus on the sensation of touch, maybe your hands, where they're placed, your legs. Any areas of your body. And if you find that anything I say doesn't apply to you and your situation and your body, then just adjust it. Focus on what area feels right for you. Keep up that softening and just notice what's happening, nice and gentle. If you do have anxiety, try not to fight it. Try not to make it wrong. You can soften a few percent. Let that happen. Remember, you are in control of this experience. You can pause. You can take a break at any time. I want you to focus your attention now on this space behind your eyes. As you focus your attention on the space behind your eyes, you can imagine it perhaps becoming bigger and deeper, wider, higher. Begins to feel like another world, this place behind your eyes. You've always known that it's there, but right now you're sinking into it. And you're letting that sinking sensation flow and spread. Just curious about this feeling and where it's going to lead you. And allowing your focus from that space behind your eyes to flow into your eyelids now. Just noticing your eyelids. Noticing your eyelashes. Your cheeks. Nose. Mouth. Chin. Jaw. Softening a few percent more. We're just going to take one step at a time together. Keeping your eyes closed, again, if it's comfortable for you to do so. I want you to begin to gently connect with this idea of your social anxiety. So you can go into this as deep or as lightly as you want to. If it is intense, we're going to give it a number in a minute. If it is quite intense on this scale, if it is 7 or more, then you might want to make sure you're more resourced before you explore this session. If it's less than that, then still make sure you're resourced, but be aware that that number can shift and change. It's just a way for us to determine where our issue is, where the anxiety is, how it moves and changes in the session, and also to make sure we keep ourselves safe. So if it is spiking and going up, then we make sure that we've got those resources in place, whether that's professional support, people, friends, check-ins, just make sure we take care of ourselves. Okay, so connecting in the way that feels right for you with this sensation of social anxiety. So you might just guess. It's really good to guess. That keeps us at a safe distance from the emotion if it's overwhelming. We could just guess when we feel socially anxious, where we feel it in our body. Do we feel it in our chest, in our head? Do we feel it in our palm? Maybe we get sweaty. Just guess a few things maybe. where we feel it in the body. You might note the sensation of how it feels, the quality of it, the texture, the material, the colour. Don't force it, you don't need to force it, but see what comes to you. We're just giving that sensation in the body, that somatic experience, some more tangible evidence so we can connect with what's going on in your body. You might note these things down. You might give it a number on the scale, 10 the most intense your social anxiety can be, and 0 is the least. Give it a number. Where is it right now when you're thinking about it? Okay. So just checking that number. Ideally, we want it to be 7 or less for this session right now. And just be aware that anxiety sometimes can increase, as we focus on it. So again, just checking in, seeing if that's happening for you. Try not to make it wrong. Just making sure you feel comfortable to proceed, that you're in the right place for this session today. Assuming that you are. So we're going to give this social anxiety a form. I want you to connect with this as some kind of creature or a monster, an animal, something living inside you. What comes to you? What kind of animal, what kind of creature? Is it really big and dark? Is it small and spiky? What kind of monster, creature, animal does your social anxiety form as? You can get a bit playful with this. You might be surprised at what comes up, what your unconscious shows you. That's what we're doing in this process. We are connecting with the unconscious. And you might want to give it a little draw, a little sketch, or you might just keep it in your mind. You might like to name it. You might give it a name. And it might be a name that really says how you feel about this, how it impacts you, what it is. It might be like a gremlin, it might be a grizzly bear, it might be like a little prickly hedgehog. Or it might just be this dark, like a dark entity, like a bit of a ghost. You could imagine a ghost moving around. So we're just being a bit playful and with a nice safe distance, giving this social anxiety that is affecting you a bit of a form that we can play with and explore. Okay. So we're going to go through some tapping together. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, you've got your grounding, please take a moment, take a break, do a bit of grounding meditation. You can also, if you feel anxious, you can list 5 things you see around you in the room. That's a really good way to shift your state and bring more grounding and calmness. You need to do that, please do. Okay, so we're going to start tapping the outside of the hand. It can be either hand, it doesn't matter. Any points we do that are on a side of the body, you can do them on either side. Okay. So remember, as we do this, to keep breathing. You don't want to be holding your breath. You want to help that energy flow. Just repeat after me. Even though I have social anxiety, I have this monster living inside me. So just focus on that form, that monster, that creature, the name, the shape, what it looks like. Just focus on that as much as you can. The more specific you can be whilst we do this, the better for you. And in this moment, so just repeating after me, I'm going to try to accept myself with this feeling. Okay, so that's the example of a setup statement. We're going to do that a couple more times on this point before we move on to the next point. So really you can see it's about acknowledging the difficult thing, the thing that we're struggling with, and being honest and with ourselves about that, but also bringing in that self-compassion, that kindness and acceptance. Even though I have social anxiety and it really affects my life, I have this monster, this creature inside me. Focus on your specific creature, this thing that you've given form to. And if you haven't, if that didn't work for you, that's okay. You can tap along and just skip that bit. Just notice where it sits in your body. In this moment, I'm going to try to accept myself just as I am. It's not easy because I don't want to feel like this. But I'm going to try to be kind to myself because this is really difficult for me. So if you have any resistance to the self-compassion part, that's very natural. So we can adjust it and say things like, I'm going to try. Because even with that resistance, the word try, we can try just a little bit. There's a possibility of a little bit more self-compassion. Even though I have social anxiety, it's affecting my life. I have this creature inside me. Focus on your specific creature, monster, colour, shape, name. Where does it sit in your body? And I want it gone. In this moment, I choose to acknowledge this creature that affects me. And I'm going to try to have compassion for myself and this monster. Maybe. See how that idea feels for you. You might have big resistance to being kind and compassionate towards this monster that's causing you all these issues. You might feel a bit curious about the idea. Just see. Just being curious is a really good place to start. Tapping the top of the head. So now we're going to go through the other points. This time we're going to have much shorter statements. We might just say a couple of words. So nice deep breaths. My social anxiety. Okay, we're going to tap the inner eyebrows, just where the eyebrows begin. Yeah, you can do it like this or with two hands, whatever feels good for you. Nice deep breaths. This monster. My anxiety. Outer eye, so just on the temple, on either side of the eye. So if for any reason, you might have a disability, you might have a pain issue. So if you can't do both, then just doing one is fine. That's still going to work. And if you can't do either, then just imagine. Yeah, we know that evidence shows that the power of the mind is amazing. So even just imagining some of these points, if you can't reach or do them, is going to be really helpful, be beneficial. Obviously, it's ideal if you can physically tap them. So tap along and repeat. Social anxiety. Under the eyes. So just this point under your eyes. This monster inside me. So if you've chosen a specific animal or a creature, you can replace the word monster, but I'm just going to roll with the word monster under the nose. My anxiety monster. Under the mouth. This anxiety monster. Okay, we're going to tap this point just under the collarbone. You've got a sort of a little soft spot just under the collarbone on each side. You can do it with two hands or you can do it with one hand. Nice breath. Social anxiety. This monster living inside me. And I want you just to connect with this monster living inside you and where it might live in your body. So just get a bit curious. Where does this monster live? You might imagine it in some kind of cave. It might be roaming free all over your body, your mind, your chest. Just see what comes to you. Under the arm, either side is fine. So we're just tapping on the side where your bra strap is if you're wearing one, just on the side under the armpit, a bit lower down. My social anxiety. Okay, we're going to tap across the wrist. Either wrist is fine, just tapping like so. This monster inside me, and focus on where it is, how you experience this monster in your body. Okay, we're going to go to the nail bed on the thumb. So we're tapping either side of the nail bed, just where it begins. When I say next, we go on to the next finger. So these points are really good if you're feeling anxious and you're in public, or you are somebody that you don't want them to know what you're doing. So these points can be really discreet. You can do them under the table. You can do them on your lap, on the bus. So it's really good to try that and to see if it helps you if you're feeling anxious when you're out and about. My anxiety. Next finger. Social situations. Next finger. This anxiety monster inside me. Next finger. Have this anxiety monster. Next finger. Anxious. Okay. Assuming you feel happy to continue, go up to the top of the head. Remember to keep breathing, helping that energy move, and repeat. Social anxiety. Inner eyebrows. I hate social situations. Outer eyes. Anxiety. Under the eyes, this anxious monster. Under the nose. I have this anxious monster inside me. Under the mouth. And I'm tired of it. Collarbone. I want to feel free. I have this anxious monster. Remember to connect with where this anxiety monster lives in your body, your system. You might imagine how it moves. Does it stand still, really strong and stubborn? Does it move around? Is it jittery? Just connect with it as much as you can. Under the arm. It can be either side, remember, or you can do both at the same time. This anxious monster in my body, in my life. Tapping the wrist. I acknowledge this anxiety monster. It's inside me. I acknowledge it in this moment. Tapping the wrist, remember either side of the nail bed where it begins. Anxious. Next finger. Worried. Next finger. Being around people. Next finger. It's really hard for me. Next finger. This anxiety monster. Okay. Relax, rest your hands, and just take a moment to check in with yourself and your body. So you might like to place a hand on your heart, or just make sure you're a bit grounded and comfortable. So we take a pause and we just want to check in and see how you're doing. How's your body feeling? Have you had any shifts in your energy, in your movement? Do you feel a little bit more anxious or a little bit less? Try not to make it wrong if you feel a bit more anxious, because as energy moves, it has to come up. That's okay. Obviously, if you feel really anxious and you're above a 7 on that scale, 10 being the most, then use a grounding technique. List 5 things you can see around you in the room. Make sure you're resourced and supported. You might want to come back to this. But otherwise, just acknowledge that. You can take a note of your number of any changes. You might have had some thoughts or ideas, awarenesses. Sometimes we work with feeling like anxiety, and we might move into another feeling or emotion. So there might be some frustration, fear, anger, all these different things. So you can become aware of that, and you can focus, you can ignore what I'm saying and focus on following the points and tapping on whatever's come up for you. If you feel you want to do that, that's okay. But I'm going to continue focusing on this sort of anxious anxiety monster. Hopefully you've connected with that, and you might be surprised by what your mind has shown you in terms of this. I'd love to hear at the end of the session, stay in the comments, what you experienced with this. Would really be interested to know. So we're going to do some more tapping, and we're going to do another round. We'll adjust the setup statement just a little bit, And again, you can shift it and change it to be as specific to you and your anxiety as possible. For example, if you get most socially anxious when you're going to a particular place, then address that, say that to yourself, or think about it as much as you can in a way that you're not going to overwhelm yourself. Because the more specific we can be to our own situation, the more we're going to help energy to move. We're going to unhook some of those tricky energy and emotions. Okay. So starting again on the outside of the hand, remember either side is fine. Continuing some nice deep breaths. Even though I have an anxiety monster I get anxious about. So fill in the blank. What do you get anxious about? This anxiety monster, it really affects me. How does it affect you? I feel it in my body. Why does this anxiety monster live in your body? And in this moment, I choose to accept myself with this monster as much as I can. Okay. Even though I get really anxious about, fill in the blank, I have this anxiety monster and it lives, where does it live in your body? In this moment, I'm going to try to accept myself with this monster. I wonder why it's there. I wonder what it wants. You can repeat this as well. I don't know the answer right now, but I am curious about learning about my anxiety monster. Nice deep breaths. Even though I'm living with this anxiety monster, and it's a lot for me to live with, I get really anxious about, and this monster feels like, what does it feel like in your body? In this moment, I choose to be kinder to myself, as kind as I can be, and to accept myself with this monster. Maybe it's not my fault. Maybe it's there for a reason, even if I don't know what that reason is right now. Top of the head, taking a breath, but I just want it to go away. Inner eyebrows, this anxiety monster. Outer eyes. I get anxious about, just fill in the blank. This anxiety monster. Under the nose. It lives, where does it live in your body? My anxiety monster. Okay, we're going to tap on the collarbone, just under the collarbone here. Remembering to keep breathing. Any yawns, burps, anything like that, just let it come as much as you can. Okay, I want you to tune into that anxiety monster. Where it is in your body, what is it like? And we're just going to try this and see how it goes for you. Might seem strange, but just see if you want to explore it with me. So we're just going to connect to that monster. And we're going to have a guess. If it has something to tell you or say to you, it's trying to communicate something to you, what might it be saying? You can be curious, see what comes up. Is it trying to keep you safe? Is it scared? It might be a protective part, a defensive part, a chaotic part. Maybe it feels a bit out of control. Your monster is unique for you. So you're just opening up that connection. Instead of making it wrong or tensing up or fighting it, you're just gently, complete control. You are in control. Turning towards it a little bit and just asking it what it wants from you. Why is it there? Why has it got so loud or big? Maybe you can feel a bit of curiosity and even understanding, maybe. You might not be there, and that's okay. You might want it to just go away. That's okay. Just consider the idea that it's there for a reason, even if it doesn't feel clear. And I want you to connect with what you might say to it. Is there something you want to say? Is it to say, thank you for keeping me safe, but I don't need you? Maybe you could get smaller. It might be that this part of you has a role, but it's begun to run the show too much. It's got out of control. You might want to tell it that it's safe, that you are safe, that it's okay. Maybe relax a bit. Maybe it needs a holiday. Can you send your monster away on a plane, to a beach? Maybe they need a holiday. Maybe you need a holiday, a break from each other. Maybe you want to tell it to go away, to leave you alone. You might just want to tell it how frustrated you are with it. All of that's totally valid. Whatever comes up for you is valid. Tapping under the arm, either side, just on the side where your bra strap is if you're wearing one, just tapping. My anxiety monster. Tapping the wrist, either side is fine. I get anxious about tapping either side of the thumb. I don't want to get anxious anymore. Next finger. But I have this anxiety monster. Next finger. And I don't know what to do about it. Next finger. It will never change. Next finger. Maybe it could change. So we're going to do a few more points. We're going to carry on, but I just want to interject and say, with EFT, it can feel like we're really focusing on the negative in a way we are, and that can be quite challenging for some people, and I totally understand that. The reason we do that is because we are encouraging things to come up, as I said earlier. We don't want to push them down and suppress them, because that's going to make it worse, and that is generally what we're conditioned to do. What we want to do is acknowledge it. So we're not giving it power by speaking out loud. We're giving ourselves power by, opening it up and letting it come up for air to be released. Top of the head. My anxiety monster. Inner eyebrows. I want it to go away. And you remember, you can bring in your specifics of that connection, that dialogue you might have had with your monster. Outer eyes. I get really anxious about fill in the blank. I'd really like to feel. How would you like to feel instead? Is it happy, free, confident? Under the nose. But I have this anxiety monster under the mouth, and I feel really anxious about collarbone. And I'd really like to feel. How would you like to feel instead? And just repeat, I wonder what it would be like for me if this monster changed. If it got smaller, further away, quieter. What if it felt safer? And what might I be able to do to help with that? Under the arm, one side. But I still have it. This anxiety monster. Tapping the wrist. Maybe it's been there a long time. Maybe I've forgotten what it's like to be free of it. Tapping the thumb. When I came into the world as a baby. Next. I don't think I had the monster with me then. Next. No, I definitely didn't. Next. I wonder where it came from. Next. Maybe it doesn't even matter right now. Top of the head. Because I'm acknowledging my anxiety monster. Inner eyebrows. And though I do want it to go away, remember, make it specific to you. And I get really anxious about, fill in the blank. What do you get anxious about? What situation? Under the eyes. I'd really like to feel. How would you like to feel instead? And part of me doesn't think that's possible because I feel so anxious. Under the mouth. And I choose to accept that in myself as much as I can. Collarbone. I have this anxiety monster. And I really wish I felt. How do you wish you felt instead? I choose to acknowledge this anxiety monster inside me. And I choose to accept myself with it as much as I can. I choose to be kind and patient with myself. And maybe the monster too. As much as I can. Maybe just 1 or 2% more today. I wonder where that will take me. Under the arm. I wonder what it would be like for me. To feel more freedom, happiness, relaxation, whatever it is that you want. Tapping the wrist. I acknowledge I have an anxiety monster. Tapping either side of the thumb. I'd like it to change. Next finger. I'm not sure how. Next finger. But I am curious. Next finger. What it would be like for me. Next finger. To feel more relaxed. Top of the head. And I'm curious about my monster. Inner eyebrows. I'm curious about what it wants. Outer eyes. Maybe I can thank it for keeping me safe, for trying to keep me safe. Under the eyes. But I'd like to live my life a bit more now, please. Under the nose. Even if it's just a few % more. Under the mouth. So I'd like you to think about this anxiety monster, creature, animal, whatever it is. And whilst we go through the points, I want you to imagine that you are doing something that's going to help it shift. So it might be putting it in a cage. It might be releasing it. Maybe it's releasing it into the wild and letting it leave your system and float off, run off into the distance. Maybe it's allowing it to get really, really small so you can't see it. You know, maybe you just blow air and it floats away. Maybe it sort of disintegrates into dust, gets fainter. Moving on to the next point. Just let that happen if you can. So this is quite a visual thing. Most people are visual, but there are a few people that might be attending this that aren't visual. So if that's you, experience that in a different way. If you're auditory, imagine sound. It might get fainter and further away. Might be the feeling, the kinesthetic, the feeling in the body. So whatever way works for you, imagining this monster, this creature, becoming less powerful, having less power over you. You're in control, you're shifting and changing it under the arm. And just continue to let this happen so it gets fainter, smaller, further away. Tapping the wrist. Tapping the thumb. Until there might be a sort of an open space where it once was. Next finger, where it was living in your body. Is it a bit more open? Is it a bit more free? Next finger. And this openness, this free space, you know, what else might come in there? Next finger. Acknowledging, even if it's just a tiny change, that's great. Really acknowledge that. Next. just be curious about it, about what's happened in this session, about this anxiety monster and how it could change, and maybe it has changed for you. Okay, so just resting your hands. Again, doing that little check-in, see how your body feels, the sensations, the emotions, has everything moved, changed. You can do your scale 1 to 10. So for example, if you started with 1 number, has it moved, gone down, gone up, hopefully gone down? As we said, if it's gone up, then that's not always a bad sign. Things come up to release, but you want to just make sure that you're okay, that you're safe, that you get the support that you need. If you need further work on your anxiety, please reach out to a health professional, your GP, or maybe you have somebody that you already talked to about it. This session really was a bit of an exploration together, so well done. If you're new to tapping, then bringing in this visual and the monster might have felt quite out there. So thank you for joining me on this journey. And it's really important that you don't be too hard on yourself. Social anxiety is a really difficult thing to experience and live with. So I invite you to just be a few % kinder to yourself if you can. I know there can be a resistance around that, and that's understandable. But remember, drink plenty of water, take really good care of yourself. And in terms of things that you can take away from today, do you remember I said the finger points? So we just go through the points, we can do the rest. So you don't need to do all the points together for them to have an impact and to help you. Just doing a few or even 1 point is still going to be helpful for you. So you can do these points, either side of the nail bed, moving on to each finger. You can do that in public, quite discreetly if you feel anxiety. And you don't have to say or think anything. You can just tap, because we know that reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. It's going to help your system relax and let go of it. So that's really good. So don't feel like you need to remember all of the points. You don't. If you do want to, then that's great, but you don't need to. And I think this is a nice point, just to focus on as well. If you're feeling anxious, quite often it's in this area, isn't it? So acknowledging, you might, say to yourself, even though I have anxiety, you might connect with the anxious monster again. I choose to accept myself with this feeling as much as I can. Keep it really simple. Even though I have this anxiety, I choose to accept myself with this feeling as much as I can. Okay. And the grounding technique we did at the start, you might like to do that. Do a moment of just grounding, feeling your body in the chair before you begin, and focusing on the space behind your eyes, the sensation of your eyelashes, your nose. These things really help ground you. They help show your system. They shift your state. They help show your system that you are safe. Listing those things around you in a room, when you feel this anxiety build up, list 5 things you can see, like a book, TV, door, and that can really help as well. Okay, we'll do one more round just to wrap up today, just to acknowledge, what you've experienced. So if you have taken notes, then you might want to just squiggle anything else about what's come up for you. And be aware, sometimes we might have shifts outside of this. So later today, the work's in motion. You might find later today you feel a bit different. Tomorrow, in a few days' time, you might have a different feeling or thought or perspective. And that's really common with EFT, emotional freedom technique. So let's start with the outside of the hand. Taking those nice deep breaths. Feeling your feet on the ground if you can. Whatever's going to help you, just notice, come into the moment, your body on the chair or the bed. And you can focus as well on the sensation of tapping your hand. Tap, tap feeling. And just repeat. Remember, out loud is ideal, but in your head's okay too. Even though I have social anxiety, I've tried something different today. And I recognise that took courage. And I choose to be kind to myself. Even though I have this anxiety monster. And it's really affecting me. I choose to be patient with myself. Maybe I'm doing my best. Even though I have this anxiety monster, and I want to feel better. I want to feel different, free. I acknowledge I have this monster, and I'm open to the possibility that something's changed, or something could change. So I might feel different, even if I have resistance to that. I'm opening to the possibility just a little bit more. And as I say that, you might imagine a door opening, a little opening, some light coming through, new possibilities, change. What's beyond that door? Perhaps you've never passed through that doorway, and now it's beginning to open a little. Just focus on that idea. If you can feel a lightness and openness of a few percent, that's great. Really let yourself feel that. Top of the head. My social anxiety monster. Inner eyebrows. Maybe I feel a bit more relaxed. Outer eyes. I still have this monster. Under the eyes. But I feel a bit more positive about it. Under the nose. Maybe the monster's still there. Under the mouth. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's changed. Maybe it's smaller, different. Remember, tune into what your specifics are, what happened for you. Just tapping under the collarbone. Remember to keep breathing. My anxiety monster. My anxiety monster. I'm open to the possibility that it could be easier for me. Maybe this monster's trying to protect me, keep me safe. Maybe it's just gotten too big. I've given it too much control. And I have compassion for myself. This has been really difficult. And I'd like it to get easier now, under the arm. And I don't believe it can. But maybe it could. Tapping the wrist. There's lots of people that experience anxiety like me. And there's lots of people that overcome anxiety. Maybe I could be one of those people. If you have resistance to that, it's okay. That's okay. If you can be open to it just a few percent, remember that door, then that is great. That's enough for change. Tapping the thumb either side. I have this social anxiety monster. Next finger. I'd like to feel more freedom, joy, peace, whatever it is for you. Next. I acknowledge I do have this monster sometimes. Next. And I have kindness towards myself and maybe even the monster. Next. And I do feel a bit more relaxed, a bit more optimistic, a bit curious about what else might be possible. Okay, relax your hands. Well done. Do a little bit of a check-in. See how you feel. Has that monster moved, changed? Take some notes. Get really specific. You might want to come back to that another time. If you remember the points, you might want to go through them again. But just making sure that your scale is safe. That it's 7 or less. If you want to learn more about EFT, then there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of videos on the Virtual Village Hall EFT sessions that I've done in the past that I think you can go back and watch if you want to learn a bit more on different themes. But yeah, make sure you drink plenty of water, take good care of yourself. Well done for showing up and exploring this today. And if you need a nice cuppa, put your feet up, please do that. Take extra good care. I'll be back on the Virtual Village Hall soon with a Qigong session and another EFT session on a different theme coming in the next month. I look forward to sharing with you again, and I'll check over your comments and see if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to share. Thank you. Bye.